What if I could tell you there's a new form of gambling? This is BTC Gambler, and today we're going to be talking about the game dice. But actually, what I'm going to be talking about today, we're going to be using dice, but technically this could be applied to any of the originals games. So today I'm going to introduce a new form of Martingale, and I'm going to do my damnedest to try to explain it to you, and I'm hoping it's all going to kind of make sense. And not am I going to explain it, but we are going to put it to test. So first off, everything starts with numbers, guys. Everything starts with numbers. It's maths, it's statistics, it's probabilities. That's what we're dealing with at the end of the day. When you're playing originals games, you're playing with house edge that sit at the 1%, 2% max. And to me, any other form of gambling is just pure entertainment. If you really want to get serious about gambling, you should come and try this Stake Originals, and it's all about the numbers. Now, this is a spreadsheet that I put together quite a while back. It's got quite a lot of stuff in here, and I just will go through here. Kind of this main page here where it says the base bet. This is where you're just going to put in your balance, what your base bet multiplier is. That will calculate what your base bet would be. So that would be that will be your base bet divided by the multiplier, which gives you your base bet value. So in this instance, you can see we're talking about tiny amounts here, 0.001, and we are talking TRX here. It's a very tiny amount. Here we're setting the win chance. Because we're going to be playing the game dice and we want to double our money every time we win, we're going to be looking at a 49.5% win chance, which gives us a payout of 2x. So all making sense. There's not much to do on this page, and there's not much to do anything because most of it's just checking. Okay, so if we had a balance of 40 and we were doing a base bet of 0.001, this is telling me I have a max loss streak of 15. And if I go to the validity checker, this is where it maps through every single loss. So basically you're counting through the losses and then how much the next bet's going to be, what the cumulative bet will be in total. And we got some, really good validity checkers in here. And the reason it's called a validity checker is simply because we're checking to make sure whether you got enough balance here to do the next bet. And you can see when we scroll along the point where it crashes out. So as stated there, 15 was the maximum loss streak. You can't do the 16th bet. Is that making sense so far? And this line at the bottom under here where it says good, it's checking if the win payout multiplier is greater than your cumulative bet. Does that make sense? Good. When you're betting here, like say for example on the third bet, we'd bet 0.004 because it doubled down at this stage, but the total amount gambled at this stage is 0.007, so the payout must be greater than what you've actually spent. So for example, we go into the base bet here, and instead of doing 100%, adding 100% to each loss for full recovery, let's say we did 95%, for example, and we go back to the validity checker, you can see by the time it gets to the 6th bet, there is not enough in the wins for a full recovery. This is actually quite a useful check because if you've got an idea, for example, you could put in there the win chance is 25%, for example, and you think to yourself, how much do I need to add to each loss in order for full recovery? I happen to know what that was actually, but I want to show you demonstrate how granular this is. And if you just want full recovery of Martingale and you want to just very quickly sense check that you want to find the minimum amount that you need to add to each loss for full recovery, this spreadsheet in its own right would be immensely useful for you. I've quickly adjusted the spreadsheet here to manually calculate the payout. The formula for that is, there's the formula, it's 99, and the reason it's 99 is because it's a 1% house edge game. If this had been a 2% house edge game, you put 98 there, but a 1% house edge game would be 100 minus the house edge, which would be, we know that's 99. And then it'd be divided by the win chance divided by 100, and that would always tell you what the payout ratio will be. In fact, what we need to do is probably show a few decimal places here. 3.96. That's what it pays out if you bet on a 25% win chance. Now for full recovery, I happen to know it's 33.79, and if we go into the validity checker, 33. You see the bottom line there is all green. So that means it did full recovery. Literally, if I did 33.78, and this is how granular you can be, here you can see there's not full recovery. So the minimum, literally the minimum, you can go to 33.79. And then, again, this spreadsheet, I use it daily. It's very frequent. I will put this spreadsheet in the download link in the description. Actually, it will be in the pinned comment, so you can't miss it. So in the pinned comment, there'll be a link to this spreadsheet. I hope you find it useful. So a lot has gone into this. So that tells me that on this instance, it would be 25 with 32 losses. And if we go to the validity checker there, we can see where it crashed out on a 25% win chance based on the start balance and whatever the base bet was going to be. And if we go into the max loss chance, there's been a lot of maths gone into this. This calculates the odds and the probabilities. So here it crashes on the 32nd bet. So it can't do the 33rd bet. So the odds and the probability of that happening is just shy of 1 in 10,000. Okay, which is pretty low odds. I wouldn't recommend you doing that. But let's just say we had a much larger balance and we had something called a recovery pot. On a recovery pot, if we went into the validity checker, let's say for example here, we added, 25,000 as a recovery pot here. So we had the recovery pot, and then we can go into the probability, the max loss chance, and we can see the crash point goes right out to 54. And if we go down here, 54 has a much better odds. That is 1 in 5,580,733 to 1. Now these numbers have been fully verified. Like I say, you could download this spreadsheet and you can double check themselves. These took ages to create. And also in the spreadsheet, there's like a sample simulator. So let me put all this back. So we said that it's going to be 49.5% win chance. And you can see that the win payout automatically adjusted to 2 there. And the multiplier to add to each loss is 100%. So we're doubling down, we're doing Martingale. And the whole purpose of this video is because I'm going to try my best to explain a new form of Martingale. Martingale is like the worst of all evils. You know, it's one of those gambling systems that on paper seems absolutely perfect. I think every gambler has fallen sucker to this once in their life. I remember when I first heard about it years ago, I was immensely excited and I tested it and I lost a lot of money. Now the idea is simple. Let me just bring this over. If you don't know Martingale, and I'll be very shocked if you don't. The idea being is you place a bet. In this instance, it'd be a minimum bet. If you lose, you double down. On a game where you've got practically 50-50 odds, at some point you're going to win. And providing that you keep just doubling down, eventually you're going to win and you get all your money back plus whatever the base bet back will be. Does that make sense? You know, like I said, on paper it seems absolutely perfect. But the problem with Martingale, there's a couple of areas where it really gets you, because the first one is people don't actually fully appreciate actually this exponential growth. You start off on a minuscule amount. By the time you're on the 20th bet, you're 524, and by the time you're on the 30th bet, 30th loss in a row, it's 536,870. I can tell you now, you probably won't even be able to place that bet. There was a maximum bet amount, and this is how the casino beat Martingale in effect, because they have a maximum bet amount. And it doesn't matter how deep your pockets are. You think, if I've got unlimited deep pockets, you can guarantee to win a Martingale. You won't. You still won't, because you will hit the ceiling what the max bet is. And let's face it, if you get into the realms of the millions to win a fraction of 1 cent, are you really interested in that? If you've got millions, you wouldn't be placing that sum of betting anyway. And one of the other things that you need to consider as well, it's not only the bet size, it's the culmination of the total betting that you need to factor into it. This figure here, 536,870, when you add it all together, is 1,073,741. This is the problem with Martingale. Any of us that are experienced in gambling would have attempted Martingale, and I can probably laid money on the table that you have lost money. And today we're going to come up with a new idea, and this new idea is called parallel martingale. And I'm going to just do my best to try to explain that today. And like I said, everything starts with just numbers. Okay, and we've got a really good basis point to start on here. So if you look at martingale in isolation, there's a few things that jump out straight away. The first 5 bets are kind of like meaningless. So what if we could just do away with the first 5 bets? And the last bets, let's say from bets 25 onward, are far too excessive. So let's grade these out. Let's mark those as bad. Let's mark those as bad as well. And then that narrows our focus down, because we think, well, actually, we're only interested in this range here. Now, again, I don't recommend you play this like this, because in effect, what you're doing, you're shifting up your start base bet from there to there. That's fundamentally all you're doing. You're not affecting that. You could do 0 betting, and certain casinos will allow you to do 0 betting, and you can hunt for 5 losses and then start to martingale. And trust me, I have attempted that, and it doesn't matter what you do, you always have a fix for that. There is a problem. I personally have witnessed really gambling real money a 32 loss streak on basically a 49.5% win chance. And if you look at the odds and the probability on that, now we're talking 32. I mean, that was crazy. That was 1 in 3,123,747,345 chance in one happening. You could have won the lottery 10 times over. You know, even more than that, 30 times over. When you compare the odds and the probabilities, you know, you think they would be impossible, but they are not impossible. You get yourself deep into philosophical thinking when you think about this, because you think, what governs the universal laws of averages? Why is there like an equal distribution of male and female on the planet? What underpins that? And reality is nothing really underpins it. It's just probabilities. Probabilities, like the flip of a coin. When you flip a coin and then you flip it again, that coin doesn't care about what you did before. And there's no correlation to what it's done before. Every single flip of that coin is separate to the event happening. It's just that the chances and the odds and the probability of it hitting 30 times, 32 times in the tail is extremely rare. But it could happen. And there technically is nothing stopping it going even beyond that. And that's what we're dealing with. And that is what we're dealing with here. And this is where this idea of parallel martingale comes in. So it will get a little bit complicated. Until we'll get complicated when we come to test this. So instead of looking at just martingale and as one isolated event, what if we looked at multiple martingales? Well, what if I took these figures here and I shift them over 3, for example? Right, so the thinking is, instead of treating martingale like you would normally do, you double down on the loss, let's imagine that we're doing what we call parallel martingale. So basically, if I create this bet field here, call it next bet. When we very first bet, we're going to say ignore the first 5, okay? And our next bet is going to be that amount there. And we determine what to do in event of an outcome of a win or loss. If it loses, we go down to the next one. So the next bet would be 0.64, so we double that. Does that make sense? So like the next bet would have been that if we were doing a normal martingale. But what we're saying here is we've got 3 martingales running in parallel. So make sense? So right, what we're going to do, we start off on our base bet. If it wins, we go back to the base bet in this row. So imagine each row is a parallel set of martingales that we're going to run. So we will flag it. So when it comes back to this martingale, it's going to be, if it wins, it goes back to there. If it lost, it's done double the bet amount. Yeah, but because we're doing the next bet, we're going to go to the next parallel martingale, and again we're going to be betting the base bet amount, which is 0.03. And let's say, for example, we mark these up as whether let's say we lost that one, and let's say that we we go on to the third bet, which again will always, the first 3 bets are always going to be the base bet, and let's say that we won this one, and then we go back to the first martingale. Because we lost that, we'll be coming down here and we'll be betting this amount, and if we win that bet, we'll go back to doing the base bet. And because we lost this one, we're doing 0.64 here, and if we lost this one, we would have kept track of it, certainly with code. Okay, I just changed it so it uses these format. It's much easier to read there. So the next bet in row A would be back to the base bet. Next bet would be 0.64, which is where we are now, and we just lost that, so that means the next bet is going to be on this one and here, this one here. Let's say, for example, we lost that one, so the next bet's going to be down here. Okay, and then we go back to the first one, 0.032, and let's say that we lost that one. Then the next bet will be 0.2560, and let's say that we won that. That means that we go back to 0.32 on this one. And then we go on to 0.64 on this one, and if we win or lose it, we depend with reset. And every time we reset, we always go back to the beginning. So we're basically running in parallel 3 martingales. Is this kind of making sense? It's quite complex to explain, but really this is here to protect you. It's there to protect you because you're not looking at martingale in isolation, in silo. You're looking at different verticals of martingale, and you're treating each column. You move every bet, you move on a column, and you're treating each column as an individual martingale. So the key here is keep a track of where you are in each of the columns and what a bet amount to place on each bet. Does that make sense? The question is, can we test this? And the answer to that is actually yes, we can. So the first step was for me to be able to recreate the game dice. I'm not going to bore you with details, because if you've seen any of my previous videos, you will know I've deciphered most of these games, and dice has already been done. So I've recreated the game from the information from the website, and it exactly 100% proves and matches through to their provably fair. So it's 100% replica of the game. So I'm not going to bore you to do that. If you wanted to test that, you can literally go down to the logs here and you can uncomment out these where it says server seed, client seed, and a nonce position, or nonce number. So, and then you can go to provably fair. You can put the server seed, the client seed, and the nonce position in the provably fair, and you'll see the results will be identical to the results that I generate. I had a solid basis and foundation to begin with. So realistically, for me to recreate this, I just needed to code the game, and I need to build an array. So an array will be simply the construction, pretty much empty to begin with. So I'll show you here. I'm just setting up the basics of the game similar to where we are before. So we said a 49.5% win chance. The base bet was 0.001, which we will put in the spreadsheet. I put a fake balance in there, and bear in mind that's TRX, not dollars. And I specified the amount to increase in the loss, and it has to be 2 because it's a simple way that it's twice the amount. It's the way that JavaScript does its calculations. You couldn't, for example, say at 100%. Anyway, so it's times 2, and that gives us a 100% increase in the loss. And down here I've got this variable that says number of martingales, which will give you a bit of a hint where you can see where this video is going to go. Okay, because we're not limited to just 3, by the way. Okay, but I want you to see it in action. So we can, and then I build this array out. So the array here is basically the number of martingale, which is 3. So it's going to build an array of 3, and then we can keep track of it through the betting. In here we can specify, we're simulating the game using 100% provably fair. It moves on a nonce position every bet. We're specifying the number of bets that we're going to be doing. So I said here, for example, if I want to simulate an entire day's running, it's 240,000 bets. If you want to do a week, it's 168,000. That'd be 1.68 million, and it'd be 7.2 million for a month and 86,400,000 for a year. We're not at that stage yet. Okay, we're just going to simply test it. And I'm running this code with debug mode on. So it's set to true. and I've got a pause of 1000 milliseconds, or basically 1 second between each bet, so we can see exactly what's going on. And because we're running in debug mode, we're going to get like verbose login. A lot of it is actually commented out because it's too noisy. Down here, like the server seed to client seed to nonce, progress, bet count. Let's say we might want to see the result. That might be interesting. And we know the win chance is not going to change, but we might want to show the amount wagered. So I'm just going to save this. And as you can see, it's really early days because it's still called test. Okay, it's still called test. But by the time this video goes live, this will have a proper name. It'll be called parallelmartingale.cgs, and it will be out on GitHub as well. But stick around because we're going to take this to a whole new level. Okay, let's run this. Let's run this. And this is in debug mode. Now it's telling me, and according to the spreadsheet, as each row of Martingale increments is keeping a record of those in the array. It's telling me what the profit is overall and how much has been wagered, what the current streak is, and such forth. And you could see sort of progressively each sort of row of Martingale slightly incrementing and doubling down. Like the first one is 64 now, it'll be 1.28 next, and if that loses again, they're going to go up to 256, and then as soon as they win, they go back to the base bet, which is 5 times. Yeah, we start up bet number 5 in effect. That making sense? So we've demonstrated that we can actually recreate that programmatically. Now the biggest question is everybody wants to know, is this profitable? Can it crash? Well, of course, guys, of course it can. Let's try and create a crash event. So I'm going to close this. I'm just going to put a 1 millisecond latency delay between the bets, just quickly, because I expect this to crash. Actually, no. What I'm going to do, I'm going to turn debug mode off. Debug mode is false. And this will run through an amazing 240,000 bets a second. So this should take literally 1 or 2 seconds to do an entire day's run, so we can see exactly what we can make. Amazingly, it survived. So what does it tell me? If you run that 24 hours, you would have done a total of 240,000 bets. It survived that with a fake balance of 25,000. It made 594 profit, and it wagered 10,025 in 1 day, which is very impressive, I have to say. Now the question is, could that last a week? And we could do that by going to total bets here, and we're changing up the value from 1 day to 1 week. Just save that, rerun this. It did. I could tell you, if you ran normal Martingale, you literally won't last 5 seconds. So this was very impressive. This made 4,154 in 1 week's continuous run, which obviously we're simulating, because we can simulate at a rate of 405,000 bets per second using this JavaScript code. Like I said, there's nothing like this in the market, guys. There's no other tool out there that can test to this level. And we could see that the largest bet place was 2,621. We more than covered it with a balance of 25,000. The question is, will it last a month? Will it last a month? Let's save this. It didn't, guys. So I didn't expect it, to be honest with you, because I've been playing around and experimenting this before you come in on here. And as we can see, the third row, the bet amount got right up to 20,971 would be the next bet. And obviously when you factor in the cumulative bet amount, there simply wasn't enough balance to place that bet, and so it busted. But we done well. I mean, way better than if we were just playing Martingale. Let's just go back to the spreadsheet. What would it look like if we went to 10 instead of 3? What would it run like if we went to 10? So instead of doing bet here, then bet there, then bet there, then bet there, you know, and if that lost, you bet there. If it won, it go there, you know, and keep track of all of those. on just 3 if we did that on 10? Well, let's test it. It's very, very easy to test. We can come back up to here. We can simply state here that the number of martingales that we're running is not 3 but 10. And let's save that. And just to confirm that that is doing that, I'm going to put it on debug mode. Okay, let's test it. There we are. We've got 10 running, 10 managing 10 martingales simultaneously in an array, running this in debug mode. Was only there to verify that it is running 10. So I'm going to turn debug mode off. Now, before we couldn't survive a month. And the question is, can we survive a month now? I suppose anyways by testing it. We didn't either. So we hit same problem. Okay. So can we run, for example, 50? Let's go back to the spreadsheet. So if we run 50 in the spreadsheet, it would look like this. It'd be completely unusable. But let's go back up here. Let's change the number of martingales to 50, which is crazy. And then put debug mode back on. And we're only running debug just to make sure we're getting 50 martingale rows that it's keeping track of. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's turn debug mode off. Okay, we're running. So interesting. That took 17 seconds to complete. 7,200,000 bets was 1 month's continuous running non-stop. He would have made a profit of 17,805. He would have wagered 441,000. That's interesting. And you see the largest bet placed was 5,242. Now, was that a fluke? Given it only takes 17 seconds to run, let's run it again. It does seem by increasing the number of... No, we crashed again. So it is possible to crash as well. So there are a few things we can do. We can test things even further. Let's do 100 martingales. And this is the beauty of coding, guys. The beauty of coding. We can do this simply by changing one number in a piece of code. Oh, it crashed again. So it's quite risky. So I think in order for these to be protected, let's change things up slightly. Like I say, I have tested and played around with this quite a lot before you came along. And one of the areas that I thought of, here in the code, we're checking for win conditions. And we're saying if on the array position you get a win, it goes back to the base bet. And if it loses, it doubles down on a loss. But what if we said we got rid of that and we only double down if we're in a loss scenario? You know, if we're in profit, why even bother doubling down? And again, it's just one idea. So if we run this time we're only going to double martingale on each of the 100 separate martingales we're keeping track of, only whilst it's in a loss scenario. If it's in profit, it's not going to bother. And we can see here, like, we're in profit here. Now this is really interesting because we basically made no profit, but we wagered a lot. We wagered 66,332. Just think about this for a moment. If we adjusted this, and I'm only interested in what does it look like if I run it for 1 week, and this will run very quick. Because what I'm interested in, and this is what I've been trying to hunt for ages, is a mechanism to be able to wager $1,000 per week at very, very low risk. Okay, you have to be above sort of 8,000 TRX wagered per week to sort of meet that threshold. And then this way you're not playing to beat the casino, but you're also not playing to lose. You're playing what they call the comp game. And the comp game is where you take advantage of the VIP perks and you get paid that way rather than trying to beat the casino. Because one of the biggest problems you're going to try to overcome when you play the casino, certainly these games, is the house edge. There is no way around the house edge. But if you stop trying to play around trying to beat the house edge, in fact play them at their own game, then it becomes a different kettle of fish altogether. You see how much more stable that is. The moment we stopped chasing profits and we just really went for just pure wagering, where we set the wage threshold. We want to wager 8,000 or more TRX, which will get us, the moment you get above that threshold, all VIP perks will be available to you. This feels like something I've been hunting for a very long time. So I'm going to keep the number of Martingales to 100, but this time I'm really going to crank it up. Really. Could it survive a year? I always say if you've got a strategy that can survive a month, it's a good strategy. But surviving a year is almost unheard of. And the question is, can this survive a year? I'll bring you back. Okay guys, I did not expect that. It did survive the whole year. I mean, that is very interesting. It did 86,400,001 bet. It wagered 544,780. But interestingly, we made basically no profit. Bear in mind, you would have got rate back. So rate back would be 5% of the house edge. Now, these may not seem exciting numbers to some people, but anybody that knows my project Alphaverse will know these are actually very exciting numbers. This is something I've been hunting for a very long period of time. The ability to wager $1,000 per week per account at low risk. All right, let's do something absolutely crazy. I mean, you saw the bet rate here. 425,000 bets per second. So why don't I just run a full 10-year check? I haven't had a single strategy that's been able to survive, or even a year, but let alone 10 years, it's unheard of. So this would be totally untested territory. I do not expect this to survive this, but I would love to be proven wrong. I will bring you back. I was almost excited there, guys. We managed to get 44% of the way through a 10-year run. You know, I was preparing my speech because in all my years of running gambling that I have done, all the years of gambling, you know, I've kind of never seen anything like this. You know, unless you do something absolutely crazy, like you give yourself an insane balance like $1 trillion. You know, you don't even survive a year, but this survived 4.4 years, which is amazing in its own right. To be honest, I've heard of it. You know, every strategy is basically beatable ultimately, but it's taken 4 years. You would have more than made your money up. Like, I did not increase anything. You can see my balance has stayed the same. It was, you know, in the scheme of things, that is not a lot. 25,000 would be interesting. This if I increase that slightly to see whether it would cover it. I did have a max bet amount here, so that's like a stop loss limit in there, 21,000. I'm tempted. Well, actually I'm not. Like, I'm just going to double this. That will only give us a couple of more losses per, yeah, whatever it's going to be. But we'd be interested to see. I'd love to be able to see this complete, because honestly, in all my years of gambling, I have never seen this being able to ever complete. So this would be unheard of. 10 years run. I would bring you back. That lasted a year. So this one here. I'm thinking. Just change the number of Martingales to 1,000. I'll bring you back. Would you believe it? I had every confidence that was going to complete a 10-year run. It got to 92.56% of the way through. I mean, it was, and it is still amazing. I observed a pattern that made me think it was going to complete, because what I was experiencing is that the profit was shooting up and then going down. So in relative terms to the amount that we're staking, that's quite a large profit, which basically meant it was spending the majority of time doing flat betting rather than actually doubling down. And it'd be interesting to observe this in debug mode, because I expect to see wild fluctuations in the balance, because you're managing 1,000 sort of kind of parallel martingale pots here. So from the casino's perspective, it would just seem just complete wild. You know, your random pattern would just, your pattern of betting would seem absolutely random. I think I'm going to have to speed this up. I'd be interested to know whether actually this could be played with profit in mind. as well. I think there's variations of this. I think there's loads and loads of legs in running it just as this is at the moment. What if I took a more aggressive approach? And let's just go back to the spreadsheet for a moment. We saw, unfortunately it's gone now, you can go back and look. You see it hit a -30. You know, I said before, if you went back to the spreadsheet, if we were doing Martingale just based on just pure Martingale without using this parallel Martingale, because we're starting off 5 times the base bet, you can see 30th bet would have been 2,684,354. Now I know that bet would not be allowed. There is a maximum bet amount, and that would definitely exceeded it, and that would have been, you'd have had to have a bankroll of 5 million. Hey, we finished. It's very interesting. 2,126 seconds. So that took 35 minutes. 35 minutes to complete a 10-year simulation. Obviously, because I had a crazy balance, it did actually survive. But what I really wanted to know, what was the, worst case scenario? And you can see here at one point, the bet would have gone to 83,886. So if we put that on a spreadsheet, you could see 83,886. So it would have gone to 25 losses on one of those 1,000 verticals of Martingale rows. I mean, it's very interesting. It's very, very, very interesting. I mean, think 10 years running is very, very excessive, and I've never seen it complete. And I challenge anybody with a balance of, 83,000 to complete a 10-year simulation. This is totally unheard of. Totally unheard of. It gives me a lot of confidence. And I suppose now the next step for me is to code this and test it, really. So that would be my next step. So I'll do that, and I'll be back. Okay. I am back. It took me a couple of hours, but I have coded it now to run an alphaverse. So this code will be made available in my Discord. I've got lots of messages there. Right, so where I put it under alphaverse, and I put it under this community codes here. And so I create a new post here, and there will be in there the simulation version, the alphaverse version, and I do highly recommend you come along and play with it there. This video will be in there as well, and obviously be in the public domain, so there'll be a link in this description again to join my Discord. Again, this is where all the smart guys I go. We've got loads and loads of members, all equally just like me, just like you. They're just enthusiasts. And I've written the codes here, and it's got a new name now. It's got cyclical. It's called Cycling Bet Progressive. So actually renamed it Dice Cycling Martingale. Okay, it's version 0.1. That's today's date. And I've just put some preliminary figures in there. And if we go over to Alphaverse at the moment, I've just literally put it on this one account here. And we have it running right here now. It has done around about 500 bets. So I'm just going to click play again. So this is real gambling now. So we're running exactly the same strategy. Now the first 1,000 bets, obviously they're going to be all flat betting. It's only on the ones that lost here, they've been marked up to be doubled up on the next bet. So I expect to make a loss on the first round, with a 49.5% win chance and a 50.5 loss chance. You're going to see more losses than wins. God, that was a long run. Right, so I'll leave that running and I'll bring you back. Okay, I'm back. So we've been running now for like just over 25 minutes. Now we need to be wagering about 50 TRX every hour, and absolutely we're going to smash that in order to meet the $1,000. It's holding out pretty well. We're still in a negative scenario. I'm not too worried about that just yet. but we did kind of see this play out during simulation. So I'm hoping this will normalise itself over the duration of the run-in, but it seems to be relatively consistent. So we're not winning, not losing, but we're just wagering. And thinking more about this code here now, I'm thinking this idea of cyclical martingale could be applied against any game. And I'm thinking the game Dragon Towers may be well best suited for this. Because a lot of people don't realise that the game dice has 10,001 possible bet outcomes. But when you play Dragon Tower on hard mode, there are literally only 2 possible bet outcomes when you play it in just on one row hard mode. And I'm thinking this game may well be better suited to something like that. Because what you're going to see within that is a lot less lose streaks. And I may well, in the background, just tinker around with that and get this retrofitted into Dragon Tower. But really at this stage, I'm kind of done. I'm going to leave this running. This is behaving exactly as expected to run. It's wagering the right amount. And I'm just going to test it at this stage. Just going to test it. Now I'm handing it to you, to the community, people in Discord, all you great members out there. You guys are much better at coming up with strategies than me. And please, refine the code, test it, play with it yourself. And that ends the video, guys. And I hope you found it useful. And I see you all again very, very soon.